when you're a dreamer, like I was, and I still am, I suppose, but the dream is the beginning. And the beginning is to fantasize illogically. And I suppose I was romantic about everything I did. I fell in love every time I turned around. I got married too many times, all these things, because it's too passionate. It gets you in a lot of trouble.
But so this whole process of the birth of the beach buggy, it wasn't particularly about a car though, was it? So you were a sailor, you were an artist, you created things in wood, the early days of glass fibre, and you had friends, you were driving around through the dunes, and those stripped down what maybe were referred to then as beach buggies, those kind of stripped down frames, weren't they?
The first buggies I ever saw were not Volkswagens, they were what we call water pumpers. They were made out of Volksworlds, Chevrolets, Plymouths, and they were welded together by the farmer. He didn't know how to weld very good. And they were clumsy, but they were fun. They made a lot of noise. They always had the exhaust pipes pointing up in the air because if you pointed them down, they'd go sample over you. And they made a lot of sound and noise, and they were fun. But they got stuck because they were very, very heavy. And the little Volkswagen came along, and I saw one that had nothing more than the body removed. And the guy's sitting on the seat, he's got something to hold the steering column, and he's got stock wheels, tires. And he's flitting around like a water bug. He's flying around like a mosquito in water. And the old water pumpers sat there and looked at him, and he just went right around him and over him.
And the interesting thing for me as well, this is 63, 64, the VW Beetle at that time wasn't actually that old. You know, coming out back into World War II, so it was a relatively new car that someone had stripped down. 5–10 years old.
Well, you know, I was attracted to little cars. I like little cars, but to me they're more efficient. They simply require money. But marketing goes into that and they tell you need something more than that. And there's more money in a large car than in a little car. It's like selling rice or potatoes.
Yep.
And so the little car for me was kind of appealing. But when the little Volkswagen came along, I bought one, not a new one, it's slightly used, it's 1955. What is that, was that old?
I think it is.
Nearly 60, 59 years.
And I was amazed at the way it functioned because I remember standing looking at it on a little used car lot. A friend of mine owned the car lot. I said, what's that? He said, that's a Volkswagen. Wow. He starts it up and it seemed like a little sewing machine. And I had a friend with me, and he had another salesman with him, and he said, do you want to take a ride? And all four of us got in a little Volkswagen. And it had 36 horsepower.
Yep.
We turned around, there was a big hill, we went over the hill, down the hill on the other side, we wound up through all the gears, and here comes the end of the pavement. And all of a sudden there's this big dirt road, big holes, 3 feet deep. And this little Volkswagen just rambled over them and sucked up all that stuff in a way that an American car would never do.
Imagine how important, if that salesman had known how important that one test drive was, if he'd have been selling a baby Fiat or something like that, the whole course of history would have been changed.
I went back and bought the car.
And so you've got this Volksworld, and you see your friends messing around on the dunes, and you kind of put 2 and 2 together, but it didn't quite happen like that. So tell us about the influences that then created these body lines and not just fixed angles.
Isn't it interesting, the ingredients to that cake? I was an art student, had been an art student for many years. I love to draw. I draw very well. In fact, I used to teach drawing, but figure drawing. And figure drawing, of course, is not like drawing simple things. But figure drawing has to have a sense of movement and gesture. Well, you carry that over into sculptural things and you have the same feeling. And the sculpture was the buggy. I like three-dimensional shapes. And I brought that to the buggy, but the buggy was first introduced to me by others that had made some kind of small Volkswagen buggies. There was like 3 of them, I think. And I went with them and saw the way they functioned. And I saw that they had to be 75 or 80 inches of wheelbase. And I started getting some of the basics down. I didn't invent the new buggy, I invented the fiberglass new buggy. But because at that time I'd come home from the sea, and I'd been working boat building, wooden boat building, and then here comes fiberglass into the scene. Well, to take a wooden boat and turn it into a fiberglass boat is quite a lot of problems that I was fascinated by. How would you do that? So I became a kind of a nutball about changing wood into fiberglass. At the same time that I'm messing around with my friends that had these little buggies, I didn't see anything in the way that they did. I saw everything in fiberglass, and I saw it very sculptural. The fiberglass gives you the opportunity to be something more than hard-cornered boxes, shapes, because you can make a plug from which you make a mold, from which you make the fiberglass. And there's a lot of freedom in that, and that you can be stylistic, you can be sculptural. It's all a very artistic thing, and I am that. I'm more of an aesthete more than anything, but I have a lot of sense about structural things and mechanical things. Not that I love engines or transmissions, I never have, but that's okay. Somebody has to. I love them.
That's why you love Volksworld, because they just keep on going.
Well, you find yourself packaging the whole thing, and I was more interested in making sure that the package had the simplest answers, because to make something function is one thing, but to make it look good while you make it function is even harder to do. To make it simple, function, and look good is even harder than that. Well, the Manx is kind of an answer to all of that in my mind. The body is nothing really more than a bikini, and it's just a tiny little dressing that you put on something. You cover up the things you need to. You don't have the sides hanging down because you're out there in the weeds. It's like an old woman crossing a mud puddle. She holds her skirts up. You see, so everybody has that kind of a look. It means that why would you scratch up the fenders if you want to go out and brush? So I just did away with it. It was, to me, the most direct answer. So the whole thing becomes a kind of an answer to making it function, work well, and be easy to maintain. And I was a free thinker. I'm a conceptual thinker. And I like to see through the problems that most people are hung up with and find a better answer. And see, I guess I have that kind of mind. And the Manx was the answer. So it, to me, was just a simple toy, almost a joke. I mean, I thumb my nose at all of the car designing world and all that cars are and have been. I just decided that it doesn't have to be that way. Let's just do it my way. And I didn't care that you accepted it or not. See, that's the freedom. You can't be worried about tomorrow's profits when you're a free thinker.
I think if you take something and you do it with passion and integrity and on a sound basis as well, because you see people who maybe create things sometimes and they've just gone way off the wall just for the sake of it. But you had this wonderful grounding. You weren't particularly a car guy. You're into your cars, but it's not like you'd set out to design specific products. And that, I think, adds to the longevity. I don't know if you guys would agree, but 50 years on, if you look around, there's a handful of products worldwide which haven't fundamentally changed in 50 years. And yet we're still looking at this wonderful shape that this came out of this man's mind all those years ago. I think that's an incredible testament to just the passion and the simplicity which went into it that was so well directed.
This guy makes me sound better than I really am.
Trust me, we're all converts, you know what I mean? We're initiates. It's an incredible honour.
No. I was beat all up because the world came and grabbed this idea and ran off with it. And everybody was making dune buggies, and I had a patent, and the patent was lost in the courtroom trying to protect it. And they don't give you your money back either when you lose. And I was just down. I was a very unhappy man for many years. Actually 24 years to be exact, because Myers Manx lived for 7 years. In 1970 it was all over with. The copiers became so many everywhere in the world. They crossed all the oceans that my company couldn't exist. And I got very inventive, however, in that little period of a year or so. I invented the fiberglass spa hot tub.
Beach buggy and hot tub. It's like chocolate and banana sauce. It's amazing. But not for me, I don't know. Who thought that?
I think you're a lot
Did you think
more artistic than I am. Words. Anyway, I was beat up emotionally, and I went away from the whole thing. I didn't want to hear the word buggy. And I was invited to France in 1994 by my friend Jackie Morel, who
is just here, Jackie Morel, who has a wonderful big concept. I'd love to put Jackie out. Maybe Bruce, you could recount some stories, because the wonderful thing for me, I'm trying to fight to do this because I can shout quite loud.
You have no big microphone.
No, they're not that organised. So if you can kind of hold it or wave it around a little bit.
Okay, like that.
There we go. As long as people can hear you. So, essentially, so Jackie, tell me, it's 1994. Tell us about you're into beach buggies and you're aware of Meyer's Max. How did that happen? How did the connection happen?
First of all, when I was younger, I was a car nut, and in 1969, I found a magazine with a beach buggy on the cover. It was jumping over a dune, and it was a car that came from England. It was a GP that some French could bring to France, and then I fell in love with the shape. So at the time I was only 18, and I had no money, so I pushed my father, and after 2 years he bought me a kit. And I bought a Volkswagen, junk Volkswagen, and I built my first beach buggy in 1971. So I was always loving this kind of car. And later I discovered that the original one was the bounce because of the shape. I didn't know those at the time, even the story. And so I became a journalist, and I started a Super VW magazine in France. In the same time that Kissum started Volksworld, because we were friends at the time, so we had a very parallel.
If you read the magazine,
Yeah,
this is the Jackie Morrell when you see, that's the...
We were younger at the time, and finally in 92 or 3, I was starting to look in America for a real Meyer's bounce.
Because you always want the original, don't you?
Yes,
You don't want
yes.
the copies or the imitation, but you learn the story. You
No.
really want, yeah.
So each time I went to California, I didn't find one for sale, so I tried a little more, and I found in an ad a real Meyer's bounce for sale in New York State. So I put it by, at the time, no internet, we have to write, and 15 days after you have the letter, yes or no. It was a little more difficult than now. So I talked with the guy, and he finally sold me Monks 2. And Virgil was a copy of Bruce cars with two big shape on the trunk. So I sent the money, and next month with my wife we went to Florida, and I met a guy. The name is Daryl Adams, and he had a junkyard only Volkswagen, and he had a very beautiful monks that he put from the dealer. You know, he put all the collection of cars for these guys that that was retired. And he offered me to sell the monk that is in the basement.
That's the
yellow one.
The yellow one.
The yellow one.
If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have seen
The yellow one. The yellow one. So I fall in love. I pay a lot of money after the time, but it was a quite new car because it stayed for many years at the showroom dealer. So they never drove it except for vacation, and they tow it behind the motorhome. That's why he has 9,000 miles. The guy told me after I found the guy, and he told me that finally most of the miles were made behind the motorhome. Yeah. So it's really a particular buggy. And he has this flower top and the doors. I don't have the doors yet here, but I have doors. And I fall in love with these buggies, and I bring it back home. And in the same time, I realized that Bruce created the buggy in 1964. So I said, next year it will be the anniversary.
Yep.
So I tried to find the Bruce address, which was not very easy. And the guy who sold me the first months in bad shape, he had told me somewhere that he was in contact with Bruce. So I wrote him again and said, okay, can you help me? So he gave me an address. So
there's no internet, you know, you're doing
no internet. It was 93. You know? So I wrote a letter and say, Mr. Meyer, this is me, what I do, and I would like to invite you to France for the 30th birthday. So Bruce got the letter, and after a while he sent me a nice answer saying, yes, I want to do it. So that's where we met in the airport, and I was waiting for them, and here were those players and winning, you know. And since this time we were very good friends, and he drove my buggy for the parade we had, and then invited me in California, and then we saw many things together, and he decided to start a club, and I said to him, build buggies, you know, we need buggies, we have no more, no? Everybody want one, so, and he gave me the permission to make replicas in France, so we had a deal, and so he sent us original plates, and we had to make a mold with my first Monk 2 I put, I use it as a plug. We took a lot of details on the yellow one because the yellow one is one of the first on a Volkswagen chassis. And after the years, the mold, the shape disappear. Many little details disappear. So we took mold of many parts of the yellow car to make the perfect replica. And then we started to build some. And at the time we are maybe 150. I don't know. We should know, but maybe 150.
The main thing is that through you doing that, there's now more buggies in the world, and Bruce is sat here. So Bruce, how did you feel when this whole sort of revolution started again in the mid-90s? And
It was
you
all
get the passion
because,
back?
really because Jackie said do these things when I was the first man in the class. I said, you can treat it very badly. Now go home and do three things. Start a club. I said, why? He said, you can have a place to sell the new you should make. Make a new buggy in the 90s, he was a Mangster, and write a book. 10 years.
Yeah.
20 years.
We had a good idea for the book, but no time.
Journalist.
Yes, I'm journalist. Yes. So yes, I know, but it's very long
Never
job.
enough time.
But what he did, he said, starting a club is that we gathered the people, and we had the first little club run of 12 or 15 cars, and they grew and they grew and they grew, and over the years it was now 5,000 people in the club, and we have meetings with hundreds of dune buggies, and all this is because of this guy. And I was down
So
there.
it's because of Bruce.
No, I was upset. I didn't like the way crashing and running over me like it had. And he said, you've got to smile and turn your life around and think of positives only. Forget negatives. They're dead. They're gone. Just start out with positives. And this club is what really did it. The club is full of love.
And that's 20 years now that club's been existing, and obviously now we have the newer models, and the guys are building one here today. You still have a buggy, obviously. It's reignited your passion, and it's put you back together, it's reconnected you with this wonderful, simple creation that came out in 1964, that went on to revolutionise the way we have life. And I think, again, going back to that simplicity, it's inoffensive, isn't it? You were saying to me about the lines of it. It's cute, it's small, it's inoffensive. It just makes you smile, you know?
Well, scale is like puppies and kittens are cuter than full-grown dogs and cats. And little creatures are just something to be smiled at because of their scale. You know, all baby things are cute. And you'll make a great big school bus, it won't be cute.
And you're not hidden away behind armour plates or blacked out windows or anything like that. Everyone can see you. If you're in a bad mood in a buggy, well, this is never happened for a start. But if you are, people can see you. They've got to, you just have to look around, someone smiles, you can take your photo down that road or something. So how often do you drive a beach buggy now?
Only when I have to.
And why is that? Because it's just...
I don't know, because there's so much of it. I had a guy drive up to me and says, you know, this thing is fun even at 8 miles an hour.
Yeah, they're fun as
You can drive anywhere and people wave and smile. Because that's what it elicits. It says to you, this is a happy car. You know, we took a little trip through a little town in the east, Ross, and Gettysburg. And we had 20 dune buggies. And the first dune buggy drives into this town, there's 20 other buggies behind it. And somebody on the street says, oh, look, a dune buggy, wave at the dune buggy. And then the person starts to wave, and the people in the dune buggy wave back. And, oh, there's another, oh, pretty soon the whole town is waving. There's a little town, but they're all out on the street waving at the dune buggy. What can be better than that?
Absolutely, and that's what you really gave birth to, and I think that it's very indicative is the fact that connection that we all have with the vehicles, but it's also the fact that we're all very much individuals. So you're an individual, Jackie, you do it your way, all you guys with buggies, you do it your own thing, but it's all come from this sort of inner spirit that came from you in the first place.
And Jackie.
And Jackie, yeah. Got a lot to ask, thank you for the last 20 years. Yeah. Well look guys, who's got any questions? Some of you must have some questions about either the influences or anything that we haven't covered. Really? At the back there.
I was going to say about opportunity arise to make a new beach buggy or new wheel, etc.
So if the opportunity arose to make a new beach buggy from a new Beetle, the one with the engine in the front, yeah?
It couldn't be done.
It couldn't be done.
It's simply that the old Beetle, the air-cooled Beetle, is unique. You take the body off, and it's still got something. You can drive it. take the body and throw it away. But the problem is, when you do that, you've taken a large body and you left a very small amount of car. And then you take this little tiny car and you put very big wheels with tires on it. And you put a little tiny body on it. So now you've gone all backwards to this thing called sprung to unsprung weight ratio. A larger body with little wheels is like a big dog with a little tail. When he wags his tail, he doesn't shake the car. See, so you have a dune buggy that's little with very big wheels, and it shakes. It's like a little dog with a huge tail. So it's all wrong. So what we do when we build a dune buggy is to make very close observance on the weight of the wheels and tires. Make things light. And keep aware of the fact that that unsprung weight ratio has a lot of effect on the way the car handles and drives. I'm getting kind of technical here. I can't do that.
You told us you weren't technical, Rich. You said you're artistic, but you quite obviously lied to us. You're far more intelligent than you make out.
The artist doesn't make a bunch of dumb mistakes that teach him what he should have done. So I turned around and learned all these things over 50 years of playing with dune buggies. And my first experiences were to do it somewhat wrong. That is, I had twin pipes. All they do is kill power. How about that? All you guys with twin pipes are nuts.
I think actually there's a gentleman who's just walked in a while back, who's just bought some at the back.
No, I'm modified.
He'll be fine, he'll figure it out.
No, I have a friend with a wheel dyno, and he says, "Oh, bring me a buggy and we'll test it." And it lost 25% of its horsepower. Some of them lost 40% of the horsepower on the wheel dyno. When you bring all the pipes together, one of them is helping the other. But if you keep them separated, and it somehow kills the thing. So they look great, though.
Yeah.
What did you think of the one when they put the Corvair engine in the back of it?
The what?
What did you think of the buggy when they put the Corvair engine in the back of it, the Thomas Crown
Well,
Affair style buggy?
it's good.
Is that too big an engine? Or?
Well, it's obviously a lot more power. It's very smooth. I like, you're not hurting my feelings, because I think Corvairs are good engines. They're out of style. Nobody does it that much anymore. And the few Corvairs that are around are good. Most of the buggies 50 years ago in other places, not exactly with Nexus, but they use a lot of Corvairs. They're good. I like them. They're smooth.
Where does Mel Hubbard fit into this?
Where does Mel Hubbard fit into this?
Where are you, Mel?
No. Yeah, the other one.
Oh, that's Meyer.
That's Meyer.
Mel.
Hubbard.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Honest,
most people that are
really
British
honest man.
Maxes, they're all the Mel Hubbard ones.
Okay.
They're not, because he built them under license, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or,
Why don't you explain that, Benny?
he only built so many, and then seemed to build a lot more.
Well, Mel was working with us for a while, and he did a wonderful job, and he's a very dear friend. However, there were circumstances that caused us to have to ask him to discontinue, not because we wanted to, it just was the situation. And so that's why he had to discontinue. But his cars are considered, the ones that he built under license are considered Meyer's Nexus because he was working with them.
Cool. Hopefully that explains that one, clears up a little bit. Yeah. The gentleman over there is...
When we were producing buggies when you had a factory, did you hand laminate them all, or did you stop them? When you were producing in the factory, when you had a factory?
You can't understand you.
I can't hear you.
When you were producing the buggies in the factory, were
Were they all hand laminated?
they all hand
Come over
laminated?
here with that. Say it again.
When you were producing the buggy bodies in the factory, were they all hand laminated?
Well, in the beginning, yes. To hand laminate something is very nice. They make airplane parts, gliders, fancy things that cost a lot of money that way, but you can't be competitive if you don't use a chopper. Because when we were hand laminating the first months, it took about 9 to 10 hours to make all the pieces of the body and the hood. But when I got a chopper gun, we did it in an hour and 20 minutes. Now why would you waste all your money on that? And the thickness, you get quicker with a chopper gun. The thickness is what gives it stiffness and strength.